But to start off with, I'm going to hand over to Matt Whiteley to talk to us about his experience with Go Vipers.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, I'm not sure whether all the issues won't be broadband. It might be just personal, unable to use system. I'm Matt Whiteley. Until last August, I was head of Batchley First School in Redditch. First, a little bit about the school. We were a first school. For those who aren't familiar with the system, first, middle and high school. So my school was from nursery up to year 4. And over the course of 14 years I was there, we developed what I felt was a really powerful model for sport. Really exciting, very high achieving and successful. You know, our trophy cabinet was really, really full. And we developed that culture where that became expected and developed on a year-by-year basis. What I want to tell you about Batchley is we were in the top 6% of deprivation in the country. We achieved what we did, despite all the excuses that we could have made around where the children were coming from. But we set out to really develop sport as a way of developing those children in their wider sense. So a little about the school. In terms of its location, it's quite fortunate. We were across the road. We had a football and tennis club. A good golf swing away, we had the local rugby, football, and cricket club. So we had quite a lot of facilities close by. Not that many of our children accessed them, but we had that close by. And when I took over the school, they dabbled at sport, but I felt there's an area that we could really develop. Mainly that was my own personal drive. I come from a sport background. I am sporty. I combined the early part of my career playing semi-professional rugby for Moseley and Worcester. So I saw what sport could do for you. I saw what playing competitive sport could give someone. Those kind of life opportunities and that sort of challenge and fun and excitement and the buzz you get from putting on a jersey and representing your school. So when I became a head, I thought I could take that to a new level. I do think it was a bit of an interesting way to go about it. I did have many comments about, are you sure we've got the time? Are you sure we've got the ability to do this? I said, no, we're really gonna push it. So we did that over the 14 years, and I'll talk today a little bit about how we went about achieving what we did. So I'm going to break it down in terms of the speech, if I can work out how to do this, into the bits that we covered. So these have come to me this week. So I'll talk about the vision, the identity, the planning, the engagement, remember, and staff. So the vision we came out with. In the start, in the first few years, before school games really helped things take off, we worked on the events that we had available to us. At that point, we had a cross country and a basketball event in the calendar, and we started to build that model of preparing children for those competitions. It all started from a good basis of high quality PE. I was very fortunate, and if I start with staff, very fortunate to have a really good team who were also interested in sport and had the same view of me that sport could bring, what sport could bring to our children. Me, from my background, my deputy had competed at a national level in her youth. The TA, who helped a lot of PE, ran at a national level as a youngster. Teacher we brought in later on, her sons played international hockey. So there was a core group of staff who knew what benefits high level sport could give to children and develop that. So within the structure that we had and the vision that we had, we decided to build, again, that culture. And I'll keep coming back to the culture, because that's what really was crucial to how it developed. Within the first couple of years, I borrowed an idea from, I've got a feeling it was High School Musical. It was, get the camera back on. Oh, hang on. Sorry. I'm back on top now. Am I talking? Hello?
You're talking, Matt, but we've lost your screen.
Sorry, I'll find the picture back on. Told you with technical difficulties. If you can hear me, I'll keep talking. So we looked at, from High School Musical, we decided to create our own identity for the sport. So I put a competition out amongst the children, and I said, right, I want like the Wildcats from High School Musical, I want an identity for our sports teams. So in fact, it wasn't our TAs who came up with the Vipers idea, and that took from the logo. If you remember from the first picture, our school logo was VIPs, valued, inspired, progressing and secure. And she took that idea and turned it into the snake with the sport items of sport around it. And I took that idea. I've got a friend who's a graphic designer. He turned it into the Vipers design. And from then on, we wore that kit when we competed. And children had to earn that jersey. And that was part of the culture. So we talk about how we achieved that. We started with good quality PE, really good quality lessons that built the skills. We identified talent from within that PE lesson. We then invited them to a club. They then worked some specific skills to develop for competition, and then from that we selected a team or two teams from that, and they earned selection. There was selection. There was children who didn't make the team. All those sort of qualities that come with sport. Sometimes you don't make the team, and how you handle that kind of emotion is part of sport. But earning that jersey, being presented with that jersey to go and compete was a real important part of that journey. I also think it gave the kids confidence, because when we went, we had a real corporate identity. We looked like a professional team arriving at a competition. You know, we got off the coach in our tracksuits and our kit, all with the logo on, all looking absolutely highly professional. Probably quite intimidating to some of the schools, but that was the bar that we set ourselves. And actually, to be fair, a chunk of our school sports funding went on the kit, and it really gave us that kind of image when we arrived at events. And I would say it was about that culture and that responsibility. I don't want people, I would say some people might think, okay, that's an elitist kind of culture, but it wasn't. The way we developed it to the teams was you had to earn your place in the club. So you might be really able, but you still had to show that in every lesson to get in the team, and talent was developed. And once you got in that club, you had to perform. You had to train well. You had to put those skills into a competitive situation to show that you could perform under pressure before you took it into a game situation. Remember that this is lower key stage 2. The children were 8 and 9 years old, but the way they took that maturity and the values that we built into them was allowed them to take that to that next level. We looked at it as a plan. So we spotted talent. We developed children through to put them in that position, so they went to events with the confidence to be able to perform at that level. It was successful. We regularly won our town events. Every year the system was, if you won your town event, you went to the Worcestershire school games, held not a million miles from where I am now at Bromsgrove School, and their amazing facilities. And we compete for the town regularly, and towards the end our goal was to get at least one team into each of the winter and the summer events. And we did that consistently over 3 or 4 years. And the staff that worked towards that kind of goal really saw, what our kids got out of it, and that's what I keep going back to, is those experiences those children have through a culture of sport and interest and love of sport. It was a love of sport. It wasn't. I never felt the children were arrogant or went. I very much modelled it on a New Zealand type of mentality, which is you perform, you do your best, but if you win, if you lose, you do your best. And if you win, you shake the people you beat by the hand, and if you lose, you shake them by the hand and you say, brilliantly played, well done. Never gloat, never never look down on people. Play hard, play well, compete, do your best, but remember that sport is about having fun and is about being part of a team and being a bigger thing. The school spirit of the games values were absolutely crucial in that, in be able to see what passion, self-belief, respect, those values were on the wall of the hall, and we always refer to those. And some of the children who might have, I can remember times that if we felt the children weren't going to hold up to our values, they weren't picked for the team. It was as much about holding the values of sport as it was about performing at a high level. You had to be that ambassador for the school. Towards the end, the last couple of years, we started to actually identify ambassadors, and the Vipers used to be part of PE lessons. So right away, even back into, you started to award them at the end of year one. The children will be awarded in assembly a Vipers t-shirt, a different colour to the playing kit, but they wore green t-shirts with their initials on. And again, we set those expectations. They were ambassadors for the Vipers. They had to be that example in PE lessons to really show what, not only in terms of ability and performing, but also about the values and how they behaved and how they worked. So, it became a culture, and it was planned year on year. Every year we looked at what we did, how we could make it better. We identified talent, and we looked at, okay, well, we're gonna pick some year threes in with the year fours to give them the experience of going to a big tournament, of playing at level. So when they get to year four, it's not the first time they've done it, so they have the confidence to do. So all these kind of strands that happen in elite sport, we filtered down and put into place in a first school and came for success. I think we did benefit. We were doing things very differently to the schools locally, and I think a lot of our success is because of how we focused on that sport and how we built that culture. But it wasn't just sport. We also sung at Royal Albert Hall. We also performed at local theatre. It's really about giving the kids an opportunity to be the best they could be and to compete at alongside anyone else, whether that was music or PE, sport, tennis. So, and I do think there's a culture that ain't got to do. Some of you out there think, well, I'm a PE lead at the moment. Well, you might have aspirations to be ahead, and become ahead. Don't be afraid to put sport first. It really did, and what I will say is, my last inspection there, I said to the inspector that our sport made a difference to attainment. I said, I can't explain why, but when we have a good year, a successful year in sport, we also have a successful year in attainment. And our quieter years are often our slightly lower years from attainment. And I can't tell you what the link is. Scientifically, I can't prove that, but there is something that happens when the children perform in sport that transfers into attainment. And she smiled and looked at me. I think we had one line in the report about sport, which was a real shame, bearing in mind of what we'd done that year. So what I would say is the culture is there, the idea of the identity, the way you plan for sporting attainment, and the same as you do with phonics schools and that, you can put the same level of planning into it and get excellent results as well. And the kids will remember, to stand on a podium at a county games at the age of 9. I hope that will inspire some of our bachelor children to go on to be Olympians and have that same experience, nationally and internationally. Hopefully we've given them the start to enable them to do that. So, that's us, that's our Vipers, and that was a culture that we set up over 14 years at Batchley First School.
Matt. Oh, that was so lovely to hear that story. I've just picked up on something that you said about the headship thing, saying if you ever aspire to go into headship, don't be afraid to put sport first. I absolutely love that, and the fact that sport can be so such a driver for the culture in your school as well. I thought that was really powerful, really interesting. So thank you. Where can people find more about you, and if they want to find out more about your journey?
Okay, what I've got, let me do some slide here. What I would say is, at the moment I am, can you see that screen?
Yeah, we can see that.
Right,
Yeah,
I'm on Twitter at MattWhiteley3.
yeah.
If you want to DM people, is it DM? I think technical, my girls would say. If you want to DM me, I'm more than happy to be. We can start an email conversation after that. I've got a blog thinking about schools. Inclusion was one of my other big passions. I would say, our sport was inclusive as well. And every year there was boccia and curling, new age curling we used to do, and we regularly would compete for at county level in boccia. Some of our SEN children wore the Vipers kit with pride, and I've got some amazing stories about one lad with autistic, the way he had the winning shot in a competition. I've never seen a child as calm as him on that particular moment to win the championship. It was something special. But yeah, so my blog is a mixture of sport, what we did with sport, and what I think we've done with sport, and inclusion as well. So I'm more than happy to be contacted and to talk to people a bit more detail about what we did. There's obviously a lot of detail behind our plans and the progression we put in place and how we looked at PE to get the best skills out of these children.
Well, that's really useful, and I think that especially when somebody's trying to potentially get sports teams and kind of working with external partners and getting involved in competition, it's a really encouraging story to hear about the success that you've had and how you built that up over a period of time and put it at the very centre of your school's work. So that was great. Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate your time today. So thank you.